Okay, let's unpack this. Think about a private jet. The absolute peak of luxury travel. Now, picture it lifting off almost silently, zero emissions, running purely on green energy.
Yeah, sustainable luxury hitting cruising altitude. It sounds a bit sci-fi, maybe?
A little, but it might be closer than we think.
It absolutely is. And for this deep dive, we're really getting under the hood of one particular luxury private jet maker's ambitious project. Our source material here is a case study, and it tracks their whole effort to build a fully electric aircraft right from scratch.
Right. So our mission today is to really go deep into this case study. We want to pull out the essential insights for you. Things like the core challenges they faced, the really innovative solutions they came up with, and also what their whole experience tells us about where high-end sustainable travel might be headed.
Exactly. And at its heart, the goal was, well, simple on paper, but revolutionary for that world. A zero-emission jet for, very demanding clients.
Which immediately creates this really interesting tension, doesn't it? How do you actually achieve real sustainability without ditching the speed, the efficiency, and frankly, the pure expectation of luxury that comes with a private plane?
That's the crux of it, a fundamental conflict they had to solve.
Yeah.
And the source, it points out several big hurdles right off the bat. The most obvious one in aviation, especially electric aviation, is battery weight.
Oh, absolutely. Mass is always the enemy when you're trying to fly, and batteries are just dense.
They really are. And that directly limits how far you can fly the range.
What else did the case study flag as major roadblocks?
Well, navigating the regulatory side was huge. I mean, electric flight is new territory. So getting certified by bodies like the FAA, EASA, it meant working closely with them, sometimes even helping shape the standards as they went along.
Wow, so defining the rules while trying to follow them.
Pretty much. And then there was the market itself, overcoming skepticism from potential buyers.
Hmm?
These are high net worth individuals. They expect flawless reliability, proven tech. Convincing them electric was dependable, feasible. That was critical.
Okay, so those are some serious challenges. Battery weight, new regulations, market doubt. How did the manufacturer plan to tackle all that, according to the source?
Their strategy wasn't really about trying to do everything themselves. The key thing from the source here is they knew the problem needed expertise from different fields. So they built their whole strategy around forging strategic partnerships.
Smart. Not trying to reinvent every wheel. Who do they partner with?
The source details a few key types. They linked up with a top battery research institution, absolutely vital for that core power and weight issue.
Makes sense.
Then, a network of renewable energy providers. Because, the green plane needs green charging on the ground.
Right, the whole life cycle.
Exactly. And they also brought in aerodynamics experts to squeeze out every bit of efficiency.
That sounds like a really potent combination. Battery tech, clean power source, and making the plane itself super slippery through the air.
Precisely. The whole point of these partnerships was to weave together the latest battery breakthroughs with really optimized aircraft design. They were aiming for a totally new balance of performance, efficiency, and sustainability, basically trying to redefine private aviation.
Okay, that's the big picture strategy. Let's dig into the specifics now, the methodology. How do they actually start building this thing, hardware?
It all started with the power source, naturally. They worked very closely with a premier lab, and the focus was specifically on developing high-energy density solid-state batteries.
Solid state. The source highlights that as being better than typical lithium-ion for this. Why was that specific technology so key?
Well, the real nugget here, according to the source, is that solid state offered more than just, say, better efficiency or a longer life cycle. Crucially, it offered enhanced safety, which is paramount in flight, and a better power-to-weight ratio.
Ah, the weight again.
Always the weight. Engineering these batteries for maximum power but minimum mass. That was absolutely critical. It wasn't just any electric battery. It had to be the right kind.
Okay, so attack the battery weight problem directly with advanced tech. But even the best batteries are still heavy. How did they manage the plane's overall weight?
That's where material science really came into play. To offset that battery mass, the actual airframe was built using advanced composite materials. The source specifically mentions carbon fiber and high-strength aluminum alloys.
Right, the strong but light stuff.
Exactly. These materials give you the structural integrity you need for performance and safety, but without the huge weight penalty of traditional metals.
So a lighter, stronger body to carry the heavy power source. A clever balancing act. And planes fly through big temperature swings, right? From ground heat to freezing cold at altitude. How did they keep those advanced batteries working well and safely?
Another critical challenge the source mentions, they had to integrate innovative thermal management solutions. These systems are vital. They regulate the battery temperature, keep performance steady, and prevent problems like overheating. Super important in a confined aircraft.
Got it. Power, structure, temperature control. What about just moving through the air efficiently? Aerodynamics.
Yeah, precision was absolutely key there. The development process leaned heavily on advanced simulations and testing. They used computational fluid dynamics, CFD, which is basically the complex computer modeling of how air flows over the plane.
Uh-huh.
And they also did extensive wind tunnel testing.
So seeing how it behaves in the air before it even flies.
Exactly. The whole design philosophy was obsessed with minimizing drag air resistance and maximizing lift. Because less drag means you need less energy to fly, which is just fundamental for stretching the range of an electric plane.
Did the source mention any specific design features that helped with that?
Yeah, it points to things like ultra-sleek wing designs,
Mm-hmm.
really carefully optimized fuselage shapes, retractable landing gear, basically standard aerodynamic principles,
Mm-hmm.
but pushed to the absolute limit to gain every little bit of efficiency.
Okay. And the propulsion itself, the motors.
They went with an advanced distributed electric propulsion system.
Distributed, meaning multiple smaller motors.
Yes. And the insight there wasn't just about thrust. Spreading the power sources out, the source notes actually improve stability. It also significantly cuts down noise compared to traditional jet engines. And maybe most importantly for safety, it gives you enhanced redundancy.
Ah, so if one motor has an issue, the others can pick up the slack.
Precisely. A big safety plus.
Okay, so we have high-tech batteries, lightweight structure, super efficient shape, distributed motors. But what about, range anxiety or needing extra juice for a longer trip or an emergency?
A very practical concern, and the manufacturer anticipated that. The case study actually details how they integrated a small hydrogen fuel cell as a supplementary power source.
Interesting. A hybrid element, then. Sort of a backup.
Exactly. It wasn't intended as the main power source for everyday flights. Think of it more as an extra layer of energy security. It extends the range potential and provides a safety net for unexpected situations, all without messing up the zero-emission goal during normal operation. It's a clean fallback.
That makes a lot of sense, practically. Okay, let's shift gears from the engineering side to the passenger side. This is a luxury jet, after all. How did they weave sustainability into that high-end cabin experience?
Yeah, this was crucial for meeting their market's changing tastes. The source notes, they were very deliberate about the materials they chose, using things like premium but environmentally friendly, bamboo fiber paneling, elegant fittings made from recycled aluminum, and high-end vegan leather upholstery.
So materials that feel luxurious but also have that green story. What about energy use inside the cabin? Lights, entertainment, etc.
It's also considered. They put in energy-efficient lighting, smart cabin automation systems to manage power use, and low-power in-flight entertainment options. The idea was to minimize how much power the cabin itself drew from the batteries, saving it for flight, but without, making it feel Spartan.
Still has to feel luxurious.
Absolutely.
And passenger well-being, any features there?
Yes, state-of-the-art air purification systems. That's another feature that the source suggests resonated well with their clients' focus on health and environment.
Okay, so they designed and built this incredible machine, but an electric plane isn't much good if you can't charge it easily. The infrastructure seems like a massive piece of this puzzle.
Oh, it absolutely is. And the source flags it as a major potential barrier to adoption they knew they had to tackle head-on. They didn't just build the plane and hope for the best. They actively worked on building the ecosystem around it. This meant partnering up with major private aviation hubs and high-end airports.
To get charging stations installed?
Exactly. They set up dedicated ultra-fast charging stations at these key spots. And crucially, to keep the whole story consistent, these stations were designed to be powered by renewable energy sources. Think solar farms, wind power, feeding into those chargers.
Right. Ensuring the whole process from plug to plane is actually green. Did they look at anything even quicker than charging, maybe for faster turnarounds?
Yes, the source does mention they explored battery swapping technology.
Swapping the whole battery out.
Yeah, the concept is you'd land, quickly swap the depleted battery pack for a fully charged one, and take off again. Potentially much faster than even ultra-fast charging.
That's a really interesting idea for future operations. Okay, so the plane's design, the infrastructure's planned. How did they actually prove all this innovation worked? The testing and validation.
Critically important, and the source indicates it was extensive. Before even thinking about selling it, the aircraft went through a really tough testing regime. This involved ground trials, full-scale prototype flight tests, and tons of simulated operations covering pretty much every scenario imaginable.
What sorts of things were they measuring and assessing during these tests?
Everything, really. Battery endurance under load, how stable the aircraft was in different weather conditions, how well the in-flight energy management systems performed, the effectiveness of emergency procedures.
So pushing it to its limits safely.
Exactly. And the data they got back was invaluable.
What were the key learnings from all that testing data?
The source notes that engineers used it to fine-tune things like power distribution algorithms, enhance battery safety features based on real performance, and optimize the flight control systems. The flight test provided hard, concrete numbers on energy efficiency, actual charging times needed, and realistic flight range under various conditions. It moved beyond theory into practice.
Okay, technical validation. But you mentioned market skepticism earlier. They also needed to validate that people would actually want this plane, right?
Absolutely. Gauging market readiness was vital. They did quite a bit of consumer perception research. Methods included surveys, in-depth interviews, and even exclusive preview events for potential buyers, high-net-worth individuals, corporate flight departments.
Direct feedback from the target audience. What did they learn?
The source says they got crucial insights into customer expectations. Specifically, what kind of range they really needed and what lingering concerns they had about reliability.
And did that feedback actually influence the final product?
Definitely. The source states it was instrumental in refining the final design. Things like specific cabin features, making the charging process as convenient as possible, and optimizing the range solutions to better align with what customers were saying they needed.
So the market really helped shape the final aircraft.
Yes. And then, of course, the ultimate hurdle for any new aircraft, especially one using such novel technology: regulatory approval and safety certification.
Yeah, I imagine the regulators looked at this very closely.
Intensely. They had to go through a rigorous process with major authorities like the FAA in the US and the EASA in Europe. This involved really exhaustive safety assessments, things like complex analysis of potential electromagnetic interference, detailed testing of battery fire resistance, developing brand new emergency protocols specifically for electric flight.
Wow. It sounds like they weren't just getting their plane approved, but almost helping to write the rule book for electric jets in general.
That's a key point the source highlights. By working so closely with the regulators, this manufacturer actually played a pretty significant role in shaping new safety frameworks and standards for electric aviation. They were, in effect, helping to pave the way for others to follow.
That's a huge impact beyond just their own product launch. So bringing it all together, what were the big wins, the key achievements for the company after all this effort?
Well, the most obvious and significant one was successfully launching the industry's first high-performance, fully electric private jet, a true market first. It basically set a whole new benchmark for sustainable luxury travel.
Which must have been a massive competitive advantage.
Huge. It instantly positioned them as a leader, an innovator in green aviation. Their brand prestige shot up. The source notes it generated a lot of positive media buzz, cemented their reputation for sustainability, and critically, it drove real demand from their elite customers. It even led to exclusive deals with corporate clients and aircraft operators who were specifically looking to green their fleets.
And did the impact stop with just selling the plane itself, or did it ripple outwards?
It definitely rippled outwards. The source points out that the entire project spurred broader advancements in the whole renewable aviation ecosystem. Things like pushing charging network development forward, driving more battery innovation, further exploration of hybrid solutions. It really laid the groundwork for future improvements, reinforcing their long-term vision.
So it wasn't just about one aircraft, but contributing to a bigger shift in air travel.
Exactly. It showed pretty convincingly that high-performance luxury and genuine sustainability can go hand in hand, that they can actually enhance each other. It played a part in that larger transformation towards greener flight.
Okay, if we step back and look at everything we've covered from the source material, what are the absolute must-remember takeaways, the core insights for our listeners?
The source really boils it down to a few key things. First, the absolutely crucial role of battery technology specifically, breakthroughs in energy density and getting the weight down. That's fundamental.
Can't fly far without better batteries. And you need somewhere to charge them.
Right. Point two, the essential need for the infrastructure to support it. Fast charging, yes, but also integrating it with renewable energy sources at airports. Third, the need for regulatory frameworks to catch up and evolve quickly to handle the unique safety and certification aspects of electric planes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And getting people to buy them.
Market acceptance. It really hinges on proving reliability, showing potential long-term cost savings, and clearly communicating the environmental benefits to a, let's face it, very discerning group of customers.
And that decision they made early on about not going it alone.
Yes, finally, the vital role of strategic partnerships, working with battery experts, airports, energy companies, sustainability groups. You can't build a whole new ecosystem by yourself. Collaboration is key.
Okay, so that really takes us through this whole fascinating journey detailed in the case study, from that initial huge challenge of zero-emission luxury flight, through the smart strategy, the specific tech innovations, the intense validation process, and finally landing on the major achievements and the wider impact.
It really does give you a fantastic window into the absolute cutting edge of sustainable transport, doesn't it? And it clearly shows the immense challenges, the need for different industries to work together, and just how complex it is to bring truly disruptive tech to market, especially in a sector like private aviation, where the stakes and the expectations are so high.
Absolutely. A powerful example of innovation tackling tough technical problems and demanding market needs all at once. Okay, let's leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on that mention in the source about exploring battery swapping and future enhancements. If, and it's an if, but if the infrastructure and the battery technology keep improving at the kind of pace this case study suggests might be possible, how soon could the whole idea of an electric range limit, even for pretty long flights, start to feel like, well, a thing of the past? Could it fundamentally change how we think about global travel?
Something to think about. Based on where this source suggests things could go,